Rome, the street of Jerusalem. Look around and take note. Search her public squares to see whether you can find a man who acts with justice, one who seeks to be faithful, and I will forgive her. Even if they say, as surely as Jehovah is alive, they would still swear to what is false. O Jehovah, do your eyes not look for faithfulness? You struck them, but it made no impact on them. You exterminated them, but they refused to accept discipline. They made their faces harder than a rock, and they refused to turn around. But I said to myself, surely these must be the lowly. They act foolishly, for they do not know the way of Jehovah, the judgment of their God. I will go to the prominent men and speak with them, for they must have taken note of the way of Jehovah, the judgment of their God. But they had all broken the yoke and torn apart the restraints. That is why a lion of the forest attacks them. A wolf of the desert plain keeps ravaging them. A leopard lies awake at their cities. Everyone going out from them is torn to pieces, for their transgressions are many. Their acts of unfaithfulness are numerous. How can I forgive you for this? Your sons have abandoned me, and they swear by what is no God. I satisfied their needs, but they kept committing adultery. And they flock to the house of a prostitute. They are like eager, lustful horses, each nagging after another man's wife. Should I not call them to account for these things, declares Jehovah? Should I not avenge myself on such a nation? Come up against her vineyard terraces and bring ruin, but do not make a complete extermination. Take away her spreading shoots, for they do not belong to Jehovah. For the house of Israel and the house of Judah have been utterly treacherous with me, declares Jehovah.
Thanks, Brother Bisanelli. We've really enjoyed your reading tonight. Brother Bernie, tonight you were working on Study 5, which was accurate reading, and you had no problem at all with that tonight. But there's just a few points for us to keep in mind when we're reading, particularly reading God's Word, and this is something we need to keep in mind, particularly when we're in the ministry reading to people, is to make sure that we're reading what's on the Word, and you did that, you had no problems. But it makes a couple of points there. It says, beware of inserting, skipping over, or substituting words. Observe all punctuation marks. And again, you had no problem with that tonight. Sometimes, and particularly as brothers, when we come to public reading, we have words that we're not sure about. So it's always good for us to maybe to listen to the audio recordings. These are some good tips for us of the publications, because most now are available for us to do this, or to ask a reader for help. Just one thing, Brother Bernie, you had your device up, which is good, but this arm, maybe we could get your arm involved just to bring your reading a bit more to life. So just with maybe incorporate some gestures in your next assigned reading. But apart from that, Brother Bernie, we really enjoyed your reading tonight. We thank you for that. Well, that finishes this part of the meeting. Now we'll move into the apply yourself to the field ministry and part of our meeting tonight. And we're going to, first of all, focus in on starting a conversation, and doing this for us in setting of the public witnessing is Brother Daniel Lee, and his householder is Brother Diego Wong.
Will suffering ever end? That's a pretty heavy question to put on a sign.
It really is. And honestly, with everything going on in the world right now, it's a question a lot of people are thinking about.
Yeah, it just feels like every time you turn on the news, it's just one bad thing happen after another. It never seems to stop getting worse.
I can understand that. It can definitely feel that way. It seems like people just have a lot on their plates lately.
Yeah, definitely. There's always something to do.
I think that's why moments like this end up feeling pretty important for a lot of people.
Yeah, I can see that. Even just taking a minute just to think about life does help reset things.
You know, I've had a few chats about this with friends as well. They're all feeling the exact same way. Most people are feeling the pressure of work, paying the bills, and everything else, just trying to keep up with life. But did you know about the Bible? It actually talks about a future where all of this daily stress, anxiety won't exist anymore.
Mm.
Anyway, it's just something I found interesting personally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really religious or anything, so I'm probably not the right person for that.
Oh, that's completely fair. You know, a lot of people feel the exact same way. If you ever are curious, this brochure actually talks about the positive messages on that topic.
You know what? I actually have to get going, but maybe I'll take the brochure to look at later when I have some time.
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay,
Take
thanks.
care.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Brother Daniel, and thanks, Brother Diego, as a householder there. Brother Daniel, tonight you were looking at naturalness, and in particular being observant. And there was just a couple of points that really stood out which followed along with this, and that was one of them of introducing a Bible truth. And you did that by asking the question, did you know that? And then you led into what you were going to talk about with the Bible. So you did it in a natural way. You didn't force it on the householder. You didn't also, too, try to keep that conversation going, particularly toward the end when Diego said it was time for him to move on. You didn't try and keep the conversation going there or forcing it as well. So you did it in a very natural way. You're observant to your situation. So we enjoyed your presentation tonight. Well, we're going to look again at another conversation being started. This time it's in the house-to-house work, and we have Brother Sky Ibanez and Brother Joshua Bronkhorst to handle this for us.
Good morning. Sorry to bother you. My name's Sky. I'm just visiting the neighbors in this area today.
Well, good morning, Sky. I'm Josh. How can I help you today?
I actually wanted to ask, with everything going on in the world lately, a lot of people feel like things are getting harder to make sense of. What do you think?
I think I'll have to disagree there. As an engineer, I like to think through things in a logical manner. And if something doesn't make sense, it just means we haven't examined the evidence with enough care. So after a careful examination of the evidence, I seem to have a better grasp. But if there's nothing to back it up, I don't waste my time on it.
That's interesting. So would you say you need to see something, you need to see the evidence before you trust something?
Of course. Without trustworthy evidence, it's only blind belief.
Honestly, I respect that. Can I ask, does that extend to the idea of God too? Like, is that something you've thought of from that angle?
Yeah, I have thought about existence of a creator, but the only logical thing I can see is evidence of the origin of life. We don't have this theory that you maybe speak of, but scientific evidence is where we can prove that we exist that way.
That's a fair point. You know what's interesting though? I came across this recently and I thought it was actually really logical. It says, "For his invisible qualities are clearly seen from the world's creation onward, because they are perceived by the things made, even as the eternal power in Godship." It's basically saying that the design itself is the evidence.
So it's an inference of his existence.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. If you walked into a building and saw the beams, the wiring, the layout, all working together perfectly, you wouldn't stand there thinking, I wonder if this just happened on its own. You'd know someone designed this. Someone who knew what they were doing built this.
Well, that's not a bad way to put it.
There's honestly a lot more along those lines. I'd love to come back and talk more if you're ever open to it.
Yeah, I think I will. You've struck some curiosity there, Sky.
I'll do that. Thanks for your time. And Joshua, enjoy your morning.
Thank you too.
So thanks, Brother Sky and Brother Josh, for that. So starting a conversation in the house-to-house, I liked your flexible approach there, Sky, that you went in with to start talking about something, and when it changed, when the householder said what was on their mind, that you were able to adapt your presentation so you're flexible in that area. And that really shows our interest in those that we're talking to. I also too like the illustration you used, which tied in well with your householder's background. So speaking about the construction industry and an engineer, and it tied in well. So the illustration really fitted the point there. So they're just a few things for us to keep in mind, like what's in the news, what are our neighbours, co-workers, classmates talking about? So by knowing these things, then we can be flexible with our approach too when it comes to the house-to-house. But we thank you, Brother Sky, for your assignment tonight. Well, that moves us now on to following up, and this is informal witnessing. The person expresses doubt in the Bible. We have Sister Labraga and Sister Barlow to handle this for us.
Hi, shopping again this week.
Hi, Renee. Yes, I know. Just a few items today for a new recipe. How about you? How was your day? Have you had a busy morning?
Yeah, it was busy a bit earlier. It's a bit quiet now, which is good. Are you paying by card?
Yes, please. Yes. Thank you. But before I go, I wanted to tell you how much I enjoyed the conversation that we had the other week. And I wanted to ask you, what did you think of it?
I did think it was interesting, but I realised my thoughts about the Bible are very different from yours. It's not that I wouldn't like to believe that the Bible, what the Bible says is relevant, but I just don't think it is for the times that we're living in. It's really hard to believe something that was written so long ago could help me now. I just don't think what people experienced then is the same thing that we're going through today. But I did actually ask myself whether or not the Bible could help me with things like the cost of living, aging, and whether or not, how could it benefit me today? But I feel more inclined to lean towards science and technology, if I'm honest.
That's okay. I appreciate very much your honest response to my question, sharing them with me. And I do have to agree with you that technology, science, they have come a long way. You're finding out ways for it to improve our lives. And I also have to admit to a certain degree that, yes, the Bible is an old book. It was written a long time ago. However, would you agree that the core issues that people face today were the same ones that people faced a century ago or back when the Bible was written?
What do you mean exactly?
Well, when we think about it, basic human nature hasn't changed. It doesn't change. So just like in the past, people today seek to find answers to important questions. They look for answers and solutions for the same things: the meaning of life, how to have a family happy life, how to have meaningful friendships. And they also ask themselves how to have better relationship with others and things like that. So these values have not changed. We're all looking to improve our family life and the circle that we live in, just to have a better life. Would you agree with that?
I do actually. Those are things that are important to me now.
Yes, well, so did you know then that the Bible addresses these important issues and offers practical advice? And for example, the Bible offers practical advice in how to instill within us the values of respect, kindness, compassion, honesty, things that are important to all of us. And it's also in the Bible that we find satisfying answers to important questions, just like the ones that you pointed out before. Why do we grow old? Why do we die? What is the purpose of life? So when we allow ourselves to look past the age of the book, when we don't think the Bible is so old that it's not going to be of help of me, we realize that the principles that it contains are timeless.
I suppose I convinced myself that, the opposite was true.
Yeah, I can understand how that can happen, but it's not wrong to doubt the Bible. And it's not wrong to doubt in general. And in this case, it's not wrong to doubt the Bible, but only if that doubt motivates us to find a line of thinking where we can prove that our position in the matter is right or wrong. So that is why I was thinking, and I wanted to ask you, if you would like to test for yourself the principles that the Bible contains, and then see whether your doubts disappear, even though slightly.
Yeah, I suppose it can't hurt, but I do see a customer coming, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I love our little chats. How about I come back? When is your next shift?
So tomorrow I finish at 12 o'clock.
Okay, how about I make sure that I'm here at that time and we can make an appointment.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sister Labraga and Sister Barlow, for taking us through that demonstration tonight. Sister Labraga, tonight you were working on point 3 under kindness, empathise with the person. So there was quite a few points there that you really covered nicely. One of them was that you listened. I noticed the first part where Renee went off on a bit of a spiel about what she was talking about, that you were really listening, you didn't butt in or anything like that. And that really shows that we care about what the person is saying by listening. But also, too, then we're able to give a response as well. It makes the point to think the question, what might our householder find helpful and appealing? And you're able to do that as well by bringing in, answering some, well, you didn't answer the questions, but you said that the Bible answers such questions as, why is there suffering? Why do we grow old? What is the purpose of life? Why do we die? So you listened, and that way then you could then show where she could find the solution to those problems. So by doing that, you really were able to empathise with her and really show kindness in that way. So we thank you tonight, Sister Griselda, for that. Well, that now brings us on to our final part in this section, explaining your beliefs. So this is a demonstration, which is the information is taken from the frequently asked questions, and the theme is, how did Jehovah's Witnesses get their name? And to handle this for us tonight, we have Brother O and Brother Galia.
Good morning, Kevin. Are you gardening?
Oh, good. Morning. Wow, you look very smart. Where are you going today?
I'm going out for my ministry.
Ah, you are what? What was it again? What did you call yourself?
Jehovah's Witness.
Ah, yes, Jehovah's Witness. I was thinking about, why do you use that name? I mean, I go to church too, but we don't have fancy names like that.
No, that's a good question. Usually when we hear a certain title, we can tell what kinds of person they are. Title like teacher, artist, or police officer, right? The name Jehovah's Witnesses also show what kinds of people we are.
So what kind of people are you?
You have to think about the meaning of the name. Have you ever heard of God's name?
God's name? Jesus. Isn't it Jesus?
Let me open the Bible and show you. Could you please read Psalm 83 verse 18 here?
Okay. It says, may people know that you, whose name is Jehovah, you alone are the most high over all the earth.
Thank you. What does it say God's name is?
Well, from there it said Jehovah.
Exactly. Jehovah is the personal name of God as found in the Bible. And you know what the word witness means, right?
Witness. Well, when I think of a witness, I think of court, and someone's called up to testify, to give evidence, or to tell the truth about a matter.
Yeah. And more broadly, a witness is a person who proclaims views or truths of which he is convinced. So our name, Jehovah's Witnesses, identifies us as a group of Christians who proclaim the truth about Jehovah, the creator of all things.
Interesting. When did you start using the name, or when did you take up that name, start using the name Jehovah's Witnesses?
At first, we used the name Bible Students, but on July 26, 1931, at a convention in Columbus, Ohio, USA, it was announced that we would adopt and use the name Jehovah's Witnesses. We've been using it ever since. And the interesting thing is, this name is actually based on the Bible.
Really? How so?
Let me show you Isaiah 43, verse 10 from the Bible. Could you please read here?
You are my witnesses, declares Jehovah, yes, my servant whom I've chosen, so that you may know and have faith in me, and understand that I am the same one. Before me, no God was formed, and after me, there has been none.
It clearly says, you are my witnesses, right here in verse 10, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. That's quite interesting.
Now, does that answer your question about the meaning of the name and why we use it?
So, if I understood this correctly, Jehovah, according to the Bible, is God's name, and as witnesses, you guys, your congregation, your church members are about telling the truth about God based on what they find in the Bible. That's why you call yourself Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah. The name Jehovah, the one who made all these beautiful plants you are caring for, also has a special meaning. Can I tell you about it next time?
Yeah, it sounds good. I'd like that.